Du 6 au 9 mai 2005, à Carnac, dans la baie de Quiberon, en Bretagne, s'est déroulée la première manche du circuit européen, les 18 pieds.
Thirteen teams from England, Denmark, Switzerland, Italy and France sailed 9 races, 8 of them windward-leeward and 1 long race. The 18-footers are acrobatic dinghies of Australian origin, more properly known as skiffs. A disproportionate amount of canvas and very light hulls allow the few able to manage these craft to reach speeds unthinkable for other sailing boats. These skiffs are 18 feet, about 6 meters long, and with their bowsprit reach more than 9 meters overall. The sail plan has about 24 square meters of mainsail, a jib of 9, and a jenniker of up to 80 square meters. Up until a few years ago, they were mainly popular in Australia, but today the growing interest of European sailors in this kind of craft has led to the class spreading in Europe. The technical level is improving all the time, though the Australians and Americans are still the teams to beat.
And I love to say I hate you.
Here in Europe, this class is improving, is developing, and this, the races were organized by a company which does not exist anymore. There was a circuit completely organized by the classes, second year of the Grand Prix, also here in Carnac. After this race, we are going to Sardinia, where there will be Australians and Americans. There is a second competition for the World Cup. Then we go to Germany for the sailing week in July, and we have another competition in Campione on the Garda Lake, and to finish in the Weymouth in England.
But for now, let's take a look at the first leg, held from May 6th to 9th at the Carnac Yacht Club. The club in southern Brittany faces an exceptional stretch of water, a splendid bay where, thanks to the shelter of the Quiberon Peninsula, you can race all year round, protected from the open sea with flat water even in strong winds. An ideal situation for skiffs like the Australian 18-footer.
With your time, you had best do well.
The specific aspects of these boats, these are very spectacular boats. We try to have banana tracks on 3 laps, close to the coast, to make sure that the audience can watch these races.
The region has a normally temperate climate even at the start of spring. The geography of the peninsula and the islands, Belle-Île-en-Mer, Oie et Oedic, and those in the Bay of Morbihan, create an ideal setting for windward-leeward and long races. Every morning the crew gets the boats ready with meticulous precision. It takes a lot of attention to detail, for every slip-up on land can become fatal out at sea. And here we are on the starting line of the first race in the Carnac Grand Prix 2005. The 13 highly competitive crews had a northwest wind of between 12 and 15 knots with gusts up to 18. It's very hard to choose which rig to use in these conditions. Apart from the Danish crew of GP covers, Flemming Clausen Helming, Thomas Elber on main and barman Martin Friedrichsen, all the others opted for the small rig to avoid the risk of substantial damage or breakages on the first day of racing. This homogeneous choice of rig meant the fleet was relatively compact and there was only a small gap between the leaders and the bulk of the fleet.
Oh, it's very old class. It's one of the oldest classes in the world. Started in Australia in the late 1800s, but the modern class we've got now has been really strong for about the last 20 years, and the boats are all one design now. It's a good opportunity for us all to get together, and it's a good chance for the Europeans to see how fast us Brits are and how much harder they've got to work at catching us up.
It took only 34 minutes 30 seconds to complete the course in the first race. The windward and leeward marks were 1 mile apart. After the 2 laps, the English team Hermes, with Ed Brown helming, Mark Tate on main and barman Lachlan Torrance, was first over the line.
We met the requirements of the class. It's a very simple track without buoys, just one buoy and one line, one arrival line. The boats come on this line 2.5 times. This racetrack is absolutely good for us, for the number of participants and also for safety, because the boats can be controlled very well, and also safety can be controlled very well. Now, you know that these boats, if the wind is too strong, it's quite difficult to keep them straight. They always tend to bend. So there are cables everywhere, there are 3 members of crew, there are nets everywhere, so we have to be very careful. And the safety measure is very important on this racetrack, and we really like this measure here. We received some Australians when they came here for the World Championship. We started last year. We've been worked on it during the winter, and we've done a lot of trainings before this race. Before Karnak, so you can see this boat is absolutely beautiful. It is a very physical boat, isn't it?
For the other 2 races sailed on this first day, the course was lengthened by 300 metres. The English on Hermes kept up the pressure, keeping cool heads and working hard to stay ahead of their direct competitors and fellow countries second.
Sweetheart is bleeding in the snow cone. So smart, she's leading me to ozone. Music, a great communicator. Used 2 sticks to make it in the nature.
The increasing number of English crews on the European circuit, 4 out of 13 teams in Karnak were English, is a clear sign that the European Tour has gained a certain credibility in recent years.
Smoke rings, I know you're gonna blow one. All on a spaceship persevering. Use my hands for everything but fearing. Can't stop the spirit when they need you.
Carnack's very good, it's very nice. It's a little bit cold at this time of year. I hope maybe it's a little bit warmer nearer the summertime. But we're having very good wind and the sailing is perfect.
And here we are at the start of the third race. And again, the Hermes team led the fleet to take first place.
Yeah, racing 18's like nothing else than sailing, really. The speed you're going, and you're always on the edge. So it's where to go with the sport, really. That's why we do it.
About once a month maybe, but it's just difficult to get on the water. It takes a lot of time to get the boat to the event or wherever else, and so most of the time the boat's in transit or we're repairing it. They're lightweight, so they're hard to keep on the water. But yeah, fast, scary boats when you're in a lot of traffic with other ones, all going different directions, uphill, downhill. It can get a bit feisty, so yeah.
Yeah, you need to practice a lot more when you first start sailing, but when you've got it sorted out, you can just reduce the amount of time you need to spend doing it, and just do the events.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop top, he says I'm gonna win big. Choose not a life of imitation. Distant us into the reservation.
And so, two English teams, Hermes and Regaty, ended the first day at the top of the overall rankings, separated by few points. Close behind were the Swiss team XL and the other English team, Barron and Smither, helmed by Peter Barton with Martin Borrett on main and Jan Turnbull as bowman.
Kickstart the golden generate hub. Sweet talk, but don't intimidate hub. Can't stop the gods from engineering. Feel no need for any interference.
Oh yeah, my big plan is to now get everybody else really drunk tonight. We get a big win tomorrow. Always wins it for them.
The second day of the championship in the Bay of Quiberon was again blessed by ideal conditions for these Formula Ones of the sea, the Australian 18-footers. The sky was cloudy in the morning with a good northwesterly wind between 10 and 12 knots. The English on Hermes consolidated their lead in the provisional rankings ahead of their fellow countrymen on Regaty and Barron and Smithers. The English crew won the first two rounds in the morning, confirming their good performance the day before.
It was windy today. This morning it was 50-50 big rigs and small rigs, and this afternoon little rigs were favoured. The small. We are checking the line for the biased end. We are checking which side of the course has wind and where the tide is. And we are trying to position ourselves so we can make a good safe run into the start.
The weather was more encouraging in the afternoon, and the 13 crews sailed two windward-leeward races. The wind backed westerly and increased progressively to between 15 and 18 knots with gusts of more than 20. The Swiss crew of XL, Stefan Rüger helming, Martin Watie on main and Kevin Fuchs in the bow, followed the example of Team GP Covers the day before and opted for the big rig even with the stiff wind. Team XL was clearly at ease with wind of this strength and managed to make the most of the conditions to win the third round of the day ahead of the English teams Regaty and Hermes, though the Britons did well on the second day and remained firmly at the top of the rankings.
Basically, the boat speed is given from the boat. You can make it slow, especially if you make not a good teamwork. Teamwork is the most important thing on this boat, and especially the maneuvers. If you are a bit slower than the others, you lose hundreds of meters. That's so important. I think the most important thing. And the handling and a lot of training as well. That's important as well. Yeah.
Starting from the back, the helmsman holds the stick. Then there is a theater, and the one in the center that is also responsible for the sails, and also the balance is regulated to go always flat. The one on the front works on the flake, which can be adjusted on two sides, and the one who's in the front also ensures the balance when there is strong wind. And that's the person who is in charge of the boat balance.
Six races already sailed, 3 on the first day and 3 on the second. They all lasted about 40 minutes, with just 20 minutes to wait and rest up between one race and another. The 18-footer is a physically taxing boat, and tiredness began to make itself felt among the competitors.
Well, she's walking.
In the 7th race, the English crews, who were better trained and had more stamina, took command. Regaty was the first to cross the line, just ahead of Hermes, which ended the day still leading the rankings thanks to second place in the 7th race. The last of the 4 sailed on the second day of the Karnak Grand Prix 2005.
Riding with the wind.
There is an excellent international level. The Italians, the Brits. I don't know who is here in front. We're really impressed. They sail very easily with no problem. It's really incredible. We were trying to fix the boat when we saw them at the second lap, and they were really sailing very fast. It's an incredible show. It's really beautiful to see. It was frustrating because we couldn't move when the other passed. But this is the game. We'll try to do our best this afternoon and tomorrow. We'll try to achieve better situation.
Cefico, the best-placed French crew with a good 4th place in the final windward-leeward race, was 8th in the final rankings.
In our races, we usually try to arrive 2 days before, just to prepare everything and get ready and do some training. And the 3rd day, we always find our training rhythm, which gives us the opportunity to get into the competition. After training, we have to train a lot, and these boats are very technical boats, and some training on Sundays is not enough, of course.
And it was the final day of the highly successful Karnak Grand Prix 2005. The wind was northeasterly and very light at 4 to 5 knots, so the organisers shortened the morning windward-leeward course that was once again dominated by the English, though with one notable absentee. Team Hermes, which had led the rankings until the previous day, turned up for the 8th race with a series of handicaps. The helmsman had lost his contact lenses the day before, broken a finger, and more besides. And some tactical mistakes cost them dearly. Unfortunately, their 11th place in the last but one race had a big impact on their overall placing. During the usual midday break, the organisers briefed crews on the much-awaited long-distance course.
Petite perturbation qui va rentrer pour demain, mais qui va être perturbée par un anticyclone qui va venir par là, qui va l'empêcher de rentrer, donc on n'aura pas beaucoup de vent demain.
En début d'après-midi, à 12h51 pour être précis, les 13 teams internationaux se retrouvent sur la ligne de départ pour disputer le raid côtier, une régate de 15 000 environ. Le vent s'est remis à l'ouest avec une petite brise thermique de 10 nœuds et s'est rapidement renforcé après le départ pour se stabiliser autour de 15 nœuds pendant tout le restant de la course. Partie au sud du yacht club de Karnak, la flotte européenne a mis le cap sur la bouée du Méaban, au sud-est, avant de se diriger vers Quiberon et de côtoyer ensuite la presqu'île pour revenir, comme destination finale, au yacht club de Karnak.
Andy Richards' crew, which was truly inspired on this Sunday of racing, came first in the long race after 1 hour 49 minutes. And with this win, which counted double and couldn't be discarded under the rules, they also make first place in the overall rankings of the first leg of the European 18-footer Tour. And so the final day saw the end of the 3-day duel between the two English crews, seconded.
Yeah, that's right. I'm part of the committee in the UK, and we have a very big class in the UK now. We have about 16, 17 boats sailing, so it makes it the biggest class in Europe. Always been very strong, to be honest. We've always had very close links with the Australian class, and this year especially, we're hopefully, Weymouth will probably be, hopefully in terms of numbers, the biggest turnout with a big UK fleet, and I'm sure a lot of our friends from Europe will join us as well.
And so the final day saw the end of the 3-day duel between the two English crews on Hermes and Regaty. After 8 races spread over 3 days, the final rankings with 2 discards saw Team Regaty in first place with only 11 points. The second step of the podium went to Team Hermes, just 3 points behind. Third were the Swedes on Excel. The third English crew on Barron and Smithers was 4th, and the Danes of GP Covers 5th. Bear in mind that GP Covers was the only boat to have raced the entire championship, always with the big rig. Sixth was the best-placed Italian crew, Vela Mare team, with Dutra Colombi helming, Gigi Pellegrini on main, and barman Visconti.
Now, 18 feet is good on any weather conditions. Strong wind and flat sea, that's the best condition and the easiest condition where the boats can express the maximum speed. But the best condition is a lot of waves and a lot of wind, a strong wind.
There was a determined effort by the very young French crew from the Karnak Yacht Club. Antal Modai, helm, Renaud Mari, main, and Genol Gaine, barman, were the 3 young Frenchmen, aged between 20 and 28, taking part in the championship on Blues Point.
Yes, certainly. There are very important, very high improvement margins with some wind. There is a lot of work to do.
It's very good. It's better than sex. It's when you are coming downwind, 3 people on the wire, kite up. It is better than sex. But don't tell my wife that.
Anyway, most of the crews present will be in Sardinia in less than a month's time, from June 5th to 10th. Undoubtedly, they'll arrive with their claws well sharpened after these 9 races in Carnac.